We see in him a great humanness, not in any way in opposition to being a saint. Don Bosco indeed was a great saint.
Don Bosco coming here was a huge symbol of hope and blessedness for the area.
I think people will feel that we're blessed today.
It's a great privilege to have Bosco here, and I believe that he's going to shower us with many blessings and reawaken again the great Salesian spirit within this country.
Just arrived at Dublin Port, and in about 45 minutes time the boat will come from Holyhead, and it's carrying a very, very special treasure that I will be here to receive, and that is the relics of Don Bosco. I woke up knowing that today was a very, very special day, that something wonderful was going to happen. I'm here kind of waiting with great expectation to greet a friend. And that may sound funny because we're welcoming relics, and many people sometimes maybe don't always understand relics. But for me, really, the relics are just a symbol of the spirit and of the presence of Don Bosco, whom I suppose I have been inspired by, and I have given my life to in some way. His dream, I see myself as a disciple of this man who was a great dreamer. Don Bosco realised God's dream particularly about his love for young people. So I'm here kind of waiting just to welcome a friend among us, and a friend that I think will enrich us all during his time here with us.
Is it easy? Well, maybe if I just give a quick look in now, okay? Come on, we see Don Bosco. Of extraordinary blessing for all of us. Yes.
My name is Val Collier, and I'm with the Salesians now 50 years, 40 years a priest. John Bosco was a wonderful human being. At the time that he was ordained as a priest, it was after the Napoleonic Wars. There was a lot of poverty in the streets of Turin, a lot of young people, hungry, struggling, homeless, and nobody caring about them. They were just oppressed, picked up by police, thrown into prison from 10 years of age. Many people walked those streets of Turin in Bosco's time and passed by. Bosco did not pass by. He stopped. He noticed these young people who were trying to survive on the sides of the streets, who were homeless and who were hungry. He saw them as children of God. We're driving along here now, along through Fairview, the north side of Dublin City. That's really our catchment area. We're looking after young people from 11, 12 years of age who, for one reason or another, are not able to live at home with their families. We provide a range of residential aftercare services and an outreach service for both boys and girls who are moving on from care and need support. This is the very work that Don Bosco would be doing if he was around today, reaching out to those in trouble, getting in and out of prison, and going nowhere fast, having a dreadful life, and he could see that that could be changed.
Christians have believed from the very beginning that the physical presence of saints has a mysterious power, a mysterious ability to bring us into contact with God. We read in the Acts of the Apostles how pieces of cloth that were touched by St. Paul were taken to people and they were healed from their diseases. That tells us something about the theology of relics. The physical bodies of the saints have been, if we could use the word, divinized, made holy by divine power, by God's grace. And that presence is an attractive presence, a presence that attracts us and also directs us towards God Himself. The whole theology of pilgrimage, going to visit the shrines of the saints, was really connected to that desire to be close to the relics of the saints. And here in Ireland in these days, Catholics have the opportunity to receive and to pray in front of the relics of Don Bosco, which is a great thing because it means they don't have to travel or go on pilgrimage. In a certain sense, the relics are coming to them.
The visit of the relic of St. John Bosco is very special to all of us who've heard about and prayed to this great saint. He is the patron of youth. He's a father and teacher for us all. During his lifetime, Don Bosco sent out missionaries to bring Christ's message of hope to the young and to the poor in faraway places. And yet Don Bosco himself did not travel too far out of his own native Italy. Now in death, he is present in a special way to all people all over the globe, including us gathered here. As we pray that we might follow St. John Bosco in following Christ.
My name is John Campion. I am a Salesian priest. I am chaplain here at the University of Limerick. For me, to be a Salesian comes first, to be a priest comes second. I was inspired by the whole spirit and charism of St. John Bosco and his whole vision of love and care for young people, to be a sign and an instrument of God's love for the young person.
As chaplains, we see our role in terms of giving support to students, and that support takes the form of hospitality here in our Chalk Fáilte behind me, where students can drop in, have a cup of coffee, tea, have a chat, or sometimes students need the hospitality of listening. I think where we are now fits in very well with the Salesian ethos, because Don Bosco was all about showing interest in young people, in the circumstances of their lives, empathising with them and encouraging them and sometimes pushing them to develop their innate potential. And I feel as chaplains we have plenty of opportunity to do that. Being a Salesian for me means being a weaver of relationships, particularly with the young. When I was in secondary school, a Salesian Sisters secondary school, I was very impressed by the humanity of the sisters, and it was that humanity, I suppose, which encouraged me to read the lives of St. John Bosco and St. Mary Mazzarello. My hope for the time of the relic being in Limerick is that we will revisit the sources, not in the what Don Bosco did and how he did it, but what was it, that why, what was it that inspired him, what was it that gave him that spark, and that we might discover that anew for ourselves.
As Provincial of the Salesians in Ireland, it is my privilege to welcome to your parish His Excellency the Papal Nuncio, Archbishop Charles Brown, also to welcome the local moderator, Canon John Flaherty, and Father DC, my own brother Salesians. But above all, I want to welcome each one of you who gathered this evening for this celebration. This short welcome rite celebrates the presence of St. John Bosco among us. The veneration of his relics contained in this casket gives first and foremost glory to God, the source of all holiness, and reminds us of our communion with the saints and their powerful intercession.
The body of Don Bosco is in part here in this church. He was a great saint. He preached the word of God. He was a great educator of young people. He started schools all over northern Italy. He was someone who loved God with his whole heart, who received the Eucharist. And in a certain sense, the power of the Eucharist made him holy, made him a saint. His body is here. And the body of a saint, we believe, possesses a certain power, a power which, in many cases, throughout history, has worked miracles, has created incredible things because of the power of God in the body of the saint. And that's why we go on pilgrimage to places where the saints lived. That's why Christians for centuries have gone to Rome to pray at the tomb of people like St. Agnes and, of course, St. Peter and St. Paul, to be close to the bodies of the saints. But here we have the joy tonight that a body of the saint has come to us, St. John Bosco.
My name is Mary Lawner and I live just up the road, and I came tonight. I just wanted to have a chat with Don Bosco close to. I remember years ago going to a retreat in Salesian House and I heard Father Allen calling him Johnny Bosco, and he sounded as if he was really close to the saint, and I thought, gosh yes, Johnny Bosco is one of our own.
I'm dressing up to be Don Bosco, and we're putting on a play for the whole school as we do every year. Don Bosco's feast day today, and we just want to honour him. And this church is set up by the Salesians of Don Bosco. Really looking forward to doing the play. We've been working on it so hard. He's a very inspiring man.
We have a school mass for the Feast of Don Bosco every year, where the entire school from junior infants to 6th class attend. We have the band, and we have a little sketch, a little play of just showing the life of Don Bosco, what Don Bosco was all about, and it's always very enjoyable.
It's to bring the whole story of Don Bosco to life, because he was such an important figure, and especially in this community, and the play is a great way to get children involved and get more interested in the lives of saints.
We have a really strong link between the school and the community, which is kind of one of the biggest ethos from Don Bosco. We're very involved in what goes on in the church. The children are very involved in what goes on in the church. And I think it's just that whole ethos of kind of being kind to each other, and being nice to each other, trying to involve people, trying not to let people out, which is what Don Bosco was kind of trying to teach through his teachings. So that's kind of what we have.
St. John Bosco was getting ready to say Mass when he heard the sacristan, Joseph the Motley, shouting at the top of his voice, and kicked the poor boy about the head and shoulders. John Bosco appeared in the doorway. You do not have any right to beat him like that.
The Salesian community has always been very important to the school. We're right on their grounds, and I suppose they founded the school. We've always been very, very friendly with them, and we've always had a great relationship with them. And I suppose very much the ethos of Don Bosco permeates what we do every day as teachers in the school. They very much, the Salesian ethos is very much, to bring out the best in young people. It's to bring out and foster and celebrate the mind, the heart, the body and the spirit, and I suppose in a way that encompasses it all, that's kind of a holistic education.
Bartholomew and Greg became the first of many young people to become friends of Don Bosco. And John Bosco's dream had come true.
As teachers in the school here, I think every one of us, we all very much are aware of the circumstances of each and every child in our care, and we try to bring out the best. We look for every little achievement, and we delight in it really and celebrate it. And that very much reflects, I think, what Don Bosco did in his time.
It was the very beginning of his work for young people. He was doing other things. And because this situation arose, because he met young Bart, he realized what a need there was for a lot of young people who had no help, who had no support, who had no schools. And this can happen in life, when sometimes we may be going in one direction and something happens and we see a need and we're asked to do something different. And from that first simple little event, extraordinary things moved from there, so that Don Bosco became a friend of young people throughout the world.
Don Bosco coming to Maynooth, for me, really something special. It's an opportunity for me to explore my own story and who I am as a Salesian and as a person. It's an opportunity to invite others to share that story and to tell their own story and maybe introduce them a little bit to Don Bosco, who I believe was an amazing man, a man who worked in very difficult times, who somehow managed to walk between church and state in a time of great upheaval, who worked at a time of recession and brought education to young people, gave them a sense of hope and an opportunity to do something with their lives and to be there for families and friends down the road. We are delighted that all of you could come with us. One of the great things about Relics is they give us an opportunity to talk, to share stories, to think about a person who lived his life in a very real way, who really engaged with life itself and with its challenges, with its great gifts, with its great potential, its great projects. And Don Bosco was one of these real project-orientated guys. He did amazing things in his life. But this is the man that's here. This is the man that inspires us to be drawn towards Christ. This is the man that invites us to go into our own journey, into our own selves, and who we are as people, who we're being called to be as people in our own lives. This is the man who says, I look towards Christ, I gave myself to Christ, and Christ did wonderful things for me and through me.
Tonight we're gathered here with the relics of St. John Bosco, and there's a really youthful crowd. And I suppose we're coming here because we realise the specialness and the momentum that is here and the real grace that's here. St. John Bosco has been someone who's been a real inspiration in my own life, particularly in the work that I do. I work on a retreat team with young people, and St. John Bosco, being the educator and father of youth, has really inspired me not to be afraid to be bold in the way in which we proclaim the gospel with young people, and really just to, as he did, to really love them first and to then work on maybe evangelisation. And he really just has been an inspiration for me in my life as a young Catholic in Ireland, and I'm delighted to be part of tonight.
I simply want to say to you tonight that his presence among us is for one purpose. And he's come really for me with one very simple message that he never tired to say to his young people. And his message and his wish and his dream was very, very simple. It said, what I want is your happiness. And at the end of the day, that is, I suppose, the cry and the yearning and the longing within each of our hearts. We want to be happy. And that is our birthright, because God created us to be happy.
A lot of people ask me about this song, the Don Bosco song, or the hymn to Don Bosco, and how it came about. 1988, it was the anniversary of the death of Don Bosco. And I remember just sitting in my room, picking up the guitar and thinking about something to write, and the Don Bosco idea came to me, and an image of, I suppose, what his whole life was about. Here is a man who found a way to make the stars above our heads seem brighter than the day. I think the words that really struck me about him were spending night and day giving life away. Someone who really gave it everything, who gave his whole life to it. So it was a night and day enterprise, 24/7. And the other great word that came to me was the word freely, that he lived freely. And this is not always as easy as you think, because a lot of times we really just want to be respectable. We want to do things the way everybody else is doing them. We don't want to break the molds. We don't want to step out to be different. But he did. I mean, he began his life as a diocesan priest, but he was almost from the very beginning, he was doing things that other priests were not doing. I suppose even the little catchphrase of it is, here is a man, is sort of, I thought was important, because he is a man, and he's this one particular man who came, and he, just by the way he lived his life and by his vision, that somehow so much came into being.
Brought
allowed the sun to shine upon the orphan and the stray. His was a home. So here is a man who found a way to make the stars above our heads seem brighter than the day. Of course, my idea was sometimes looking up at the stars at night, you know, they seem far off, and yet they represent for some kind of dreaming, some kind of vision, some possibility at the edge of our awareness. And he made that real for young people and for the people who gathered around him, who came to help him. Memory filled with joy and goodness, reaching out to everyone, calling us to love, bringing us to God with a message. You just get the sense of him in his own life as being fearless, because he was doing it for a definite purpose. He knew why he was doing it. He was doing it for the good of people, especially the young. He's prepared to lay down his life for them, essentially. I mean, it's very much the idea of Christ, that you couldn't have greater love for anyone than to actually lay down your life for your friends, and these were his friends. And I suppose something about that still touches me and anchors me in some way to the dream itself and to what's possible when all the pieces come together.
This morning, we're in the presence of St. John Bosco in a very unique way. Around this time of the year, generally we have a school mass in honour of St. John Bosco, but today we have him present with us in an extraordinary way. We open our hearts to be able to receive this message, because it is a message, first of all, about God's love for each one of us. And remember also the people whom he called to follow him, the Salesians. They're called after St. Francis de Sales, Sales becoming Salesians, because this great man, who was in the 16th century, very, very strongly emphasized the importance of gentleness. So being people who are gentle with one another, and in that way the love of God comes into our hearts. So here we meet the man himself, St. John Bosco.
Salesian College is an all-boys school. We have approximately 700 students, and our aim here, based on the teachings of Don Bosco, is that we care for the students, we help in their development, and we believe that they can fulfil their educational potential.
The chest area covered over by the vestments, so you don't actually see it. And it's the one of the right hand.
As principal in a Salesian school, it's very important that our parents and our wider community and our teachers understand that in engaging with our students, that we try and do it following those principles of being fair with our students, of being reasonable with our students and being kind. And that is the teachings of Don Bosco, that you work with the young and you bring them with you. I think it's important for our students and for the staff to see the relic as keeping the tradition of the beliefs of Don Bosco in a modern time. It's also an opportunity for the students to see that Don Bosco actually existed as a person who has had a huge influence on the education and progress throughout Ireland in the Salesian schools and in the schools founded by St. Mary, Help of Christians under that ethos. And we're very lucky to give the students an opportunity maybe to take time out and pray and make a special request as the relic of Don Bosco is here with us for one day in Selbridge.
Once people understand the story and where he came from, they're enthralled by it. And that is one of the things this pilgrimage is achieving. It is, first of all, putting the onus back on ourselves as Salesians to understand the story again in a new way, a way that's relevant to the times we're living in. And people are engaging and want to get involved in all this process. So it would seem to me that it is something which is achieving a lot, and probably, if we had sufficient faith, perhaps achieving an enormous amount. Because there are also people coming with their own particular issues and asking John Bosco to intercede for them, to bring healing into their lives in a whole variety of different ways.
My name is
Sister Dimna Clancy. I'm a Salesian sister, and I love Don Bosco because since a very young age I have seen people just living out of his philosophy. St. John Bosco had a system known as the preventive system, which was based on reason, religion and loving kindness. And he always looked to the heart of the child. And one of his great sayings was, young people must not only be loved by us, but they must know that they are loved. Because St. John Bosco means an awful lot for me, he's a saint that I love and I have great devotion to. I feel that the relic is a reminder to me of the great blessing that St. John Bosco is to the church. And to me, I suppose it's a reminder to be like Don Bosco and to help make a difference.
We welcome the relic of St. John Bosco. When I came here 23 years ago, that was the first time really I heard much about Don Bosco, and I'm learning ever since. And listening to Father Casey saying, giving the life of Don Bosco briefly to the children, I can see why the Salesians and myself became good friends. Their philosophy is friendship and help. And I learned that when I came first, from the very first time I was invited up to the college. And indeed, I look upon it as a great honour today to be asked to be the principal celebrant at the arrival of St. John Bosco to our parish.
The reason that the relics of John Bosco are here today is that he himself wants to be among this congregation gathered, with this people and this parish. And he condescended to say a sincere thank you to you for your kindness and your support and your friendship and your goodness to the Salesian community that has been barricaded for many, many years.
want you to do is that we want in some way to start creating a banner which says, "Welcome, Don Bosco." My name is Pádraig MacDonald. I'm a Salesian brother. I'm working here in the south side of Limerick City in a place called South Hill. Had a lot of difficulties, a lot of problems like drugs, criminality, antisocial behaviour and everything else that goes along with that. A big part of this, which would come from Don Bosco, is that education is the key to a lot of these young people's future. Education gives them a place in society. Education gives them a future. Education has to be seen for these kids to be key. We're sitting here outside the church in the Holy Family, which is one of the areas that is in regeneration, and it is one of the areas that is hopefully within the next few years going to be regenerated and look well. I suppose when I sit here and I'm thinking about the fact that this is one of the areas that Don Bosco and his heart would be in, and he would make sure he was here trying to help the young people and the families that are in the area.
This is a great day here for Portlaoise and for the Diocese of Kildare and Loughlin with the coming of the relics of St. John Bosco. We're very conscious of his importance, indeed, particularly, say, for young people, and the importance of the great work that the Salesians are doing in so many parts of the world. They're following the message and the example of St. John Bosco in caring for all the young people, and I think it's a very important message during this year of faith for our young people that with the coming of the relics of St. John Bosco, that it's a reminder to us that we must try and deepen our faith and a better understanding of our faith, and of course following from that, trying to live out the faith in our daily lives, and please God, there will be a great fruit result from this visit of the relics of St. John Bosco.
We really are honoured to be hosting today the reliquary of Don Bosco. Don Bosco has a big association with a lot of people here in our parish because many of them are past pupils of the Salesian School in Haywood. And while we know that Don Bosco was the founder of the Salesians, we also know that he was a secular priest like ourselves, and indeed he's a man that's relevant for all times as well because he had such a great love for the youth. And as a society, I think we've got to look at Don Bosco again and his great care for the youth and his great love, particularly for the marginalised youth, the youth who are being neglected. And we would be foolish to think today in our own society that there aren't youth on the margins of our society and on the margins of our church. And hopefully the visit of Don Bosco's relics here will inspire many of our young people, but will also inspire us and many of the adult population to reach out in a more effective way to our young people. And perhaps in a more reflective way we should contemplate what practically we can do to be more encouraging and more helpful to our youth population.
My name is Paddy O'Neill. I'm principal here of Salesian Secondary College here in Pallaskenry in County Limerick. We have 38 teaching staff, 522 students. One of the key components of what drives our education system is the preventive system as described by Don Bosco. Reason, religion and loving kindness. One of the great things that Don Bosco would say is always catch a student doing something well, and it'll give you a great reason to encourage and promote them. Catch them doing good things. By the time the students come through to Leaving Cert, we find that they're very well-rounded people. They have a good variety of hobbies and interests, and all of those have been nurtured here while they've been at school.
I think it's important that students look and see and respond in a positive way to their environment, whether it's in the school or at home or where they belong in their village or their street, and that they respond in a positive way to that. I believe that everybody has the right to express themselves and to be given the opportunity to do that. Even if you haven't done art for an exam, I think it's important that you express what's within you. Not all children are academic. There are the students who need an emotional release and a release in a safe place. And I think it's important that the Salesian ethos gives them the safety and the nurturing to be valued, and that their self-esteem is rewarded with good drawing, paintwork, colour work, sculpture work, craft work. So it's not just for the soul, it's of the work is of value, and the child is valued that has produced the work.
People may think, you know, that maybe because of the type of education system that we have, that it the academic side is kind of pushed aside a little bit. In actual fact, if you have happy teachers and happy students, it's a fantastic recipe for great learning environment as well. I mean, we have 95% of students who transfer on to third level college, which is a fantastic statistic. So we have a great environment. Our students do really well, and when they're finished here, we think that they're well prepared to take up their role as citizens of this country.
Lord, you called John Bosco to be a teacher and a father to the young. Fill us with love like this. May we give ourselves completely to your service and to the salvation of all. I believe, Lord, I believe that each of my students is your child. I believe that they are a reflection of your love. I believe that each child possesses special gifts and talents, that you are entrusting me to help them discover these gifts and to nurture their talents. I believe that each child is trying to find you, and that I can be a model of how to look, how to live, and how to pray.
When he was younger and he lived with his family and he did tightrope walking.
He set up like youth clubs and then where they could like eat and play and sleep safely.
He helps young people.
Okay, he was the patron saint of young people.
Yeah.
You the top line, saint of you, Don Bosco, walk the highway, walk the light, 1-0 like that, your way, be the way that we go, that's our prayer, that's our prayer.
The relics on Don Bosco are a symbol for me of remembering a time when a person was inspired by God, and 200 years later to be reminded of his story, to be reminded for me at this time is a huge reminder of a person who left a mark on people's lives in a positive way, who inspired them. And to kind of remind us today that it's okay to do that again today, to stand out and say to young people that they're important and to catch them good. And it's a way of being again. It's another way that it needs to be kind of brought to the fore. And the relic being here now at the moment, when I asked Father Conrad what's the whole vision of bringing the relic here, it was to make Don Bosco's story better known. And he reminded us all of what a wonderful person he was, simple in the way he did things, but he met the needs of young people. Physical, through feeding them, through providing sport, catching them good, praising them, and going on then to form his order where people could join. I think the Salesians are a huge gift to our society, a huge gift, and from say the early 1900s coming to Ireland and setting up in Pallaskenry, and all say being here in Milford, the fact that the people who chose to join the Salesians wanted to work with young people, and that philosophy and that spirituality of working with young people is such a model to society. And I suppose from my own encounters with Salesians, bears huge witness to it, and it's a lovely way to be. And you kind of think, well, do you know what, I think I'll approach students that way as well. And I know lots of people would choose to work with young people, but being a Salesian means that you've chosen that way of life. And it's a marvellous witness to us and a reminder of how we can be with young people.
This is the fifth day of this very, very special time for the Salesian family in Ireland. And today has been equally a day that is now etched in my memory. Limerick really is the first place, if you like, in Ireland where the Salesian spirit was planted. And that's why tonight, planted for us, the Salesian Fathers, but also planted for our sister congregation, the Salesian Sisters, and that's why Sister Mary Doran, provincial of the Salesian Sisters, and I said it would be maybe a gesture of our appreciation that both of us would be here tonight. The second reason for me that this day of pilgrimage is very, very important is that Don Bosco, in a real way, is coming home. And the reason for that is that this parish and this church is dedicated to his Madonna, to Our Lady Help of Christians. And wherever his Salesian spirit has been planted, if you like, a monument, not just a building, and a beautiful building of a church here in Milford, but a living monument, which is the community here in Milford, who supported and has loved and have been there for the Salesian community, particularly here in the good times and the bad of their history here. And it's my privilege tonight to express again my very, very sincere thanks to each one of you. And on behalf of Sister Mary and myself, then more specifically, to thank you for the beautiful, beautiful liturgies we've had all day, and to all of you that contributed to it in so many different ways.
It gives me great privilege to have the relic of Don Bosco, founder of the congregation which I am part of, here with us in South Hill. Don Bosco was a man of many talents. He's also a man of many things, and he has done many things for young people. If I was to say one thing to you and leave you with one motto for today, going away, it would be, believe in yourself and follow your dream. One of the backdrops here has it. Believe in yourself and follow your dream. Don Bosco was always convinced that every young person has good,
Every young person has potential, but they must find that potential, and they must know what that is. Every young person has a dream, but yet we must live up to that dream. And only I, only you, can live up to your own dream.
When I heard that the relics were coming here, well, I was kind of anxious that they would come, because I think there's a great message in the story of Don Bosco for all of us and for our society and community, is that unless we look after young people, we can expect nothing but trouble. Many children are not looked after. We can see terrible sights of children here in terrible poverty, terrible disturbance, terrible anger, terrible emotional difficulties. And the message of Don Bosco, John Bosco, he still challenges who's going to look after them, who's going to care for them. And it's not just one person or one agency going to do it, but we have to do it together as a society. Everyone who has a decent heart has to muck in and say, how do we challenge, make sure that children are decently and properly taken care of? But I think people will feel that they were blessed today and they were touched by something. I've seen people coming in there who came in for 5 minutes and did not go away for 2 hours. So I think it's going to touch people in a very private way and in their hearts. So in the parish there's excitement, there'll be a lot of talk about it, and as in a sense a feeling it was a good thing and we have been blessed by the fact of the visit.
Before he arrived, Paul and I think Michael and lots of other people, we met and we had a meeting. We're famous for having meetings. Do you have meetings here? You don't have any meetings, okay. So we met and we said, right, Don Bosco is coming to Ireland for a number of days. And we asked the question, if Don Bosco could speak, where would he like to visit? Because some of us are thinking, oh, would it be better bring him to Dublin because it's the capital city and maybe we should bring him to Armagh because the Cardinal of Ireland is there. And we were having a whole pile of discussions about it. And then somebody said, okay, if Don Bosco could speak, where would he like to visit? And immediately, the person said, one of the places he would love to visit, because he would feel so much at home, is here, is this community and this parish. He's come here among us to remind all of us of how precious each one of us is, of how beautiful each one of us is. That we are beautiful because when God created us, He created us beautiful. And God doesn't create junk. That because we're beautiful, that we must try and see the beauty in the other person. And if we do that, we create a beautiful world, a beautiful home, a beautiful school, and a beautiful community.
So let us welcome Don Bosco with all our hearts. Focus this evening is on the blessings which His presence amongst us brings. May His presence bring us blessings. May it bring us healing. And being now in His presence this evening, may He inspire us again with His vision. And may we feel a great unity with Him in God. Lord, You bless the world with the great Saint Don Bosco as a father and teacher of the young. We thank You for the inspiration of his life, which attracted so many men and women who are willing to share their lives with the young and with the poor. Bless all those in the world who live with a Salesian heart. Bless all the young people of Ireland and help them to grow up healthy and strong as good citizens and as good Christians. And bless us this evening, the Foundation community, who have come to welcome and venerate Don Bosco's presence amongst us. We make our prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Sometimes in our world we find people through whom God works, and God seems to work strongly. One of those people was John Bosco. What is this? This is a magic bag. No. What about that? Is that not magic? Yes, it's not magic bag. This is the magic ball. The magic ball was on the string and it goes up and down. Do you think we could stop it at halfway? Yeah. Well, when we see, when it gets halfway, will you shout stop? Right, go! Stop! Try again. Stop! What about that for a magic ball? Is it good? All right. Why I'm doing those is when Don Bosco was a small boy, he used to practice magic, and he used to also do tightrope walking. The reason why he did that, people are very interested in magic, and they would come along, and when Don Bosco did all his tricks, then he would say at the end of it, boys and girls, will you remember that God loves you? You are unique beyond anything else, and you are capable of so much.
It was fantastic that the students actually got to view the relic of Don Bosco. Great preparation went in with all our class groups to prepare the students for Don Bosco and his arrival here and the great things he had achieved in life.
The students thoroughly enjoyed it. They enjoyed the atmosphere, the ambience, and having the congregation of Salesian priests here was great for our students to see. A very emotional day, and it's great to see the Don Bosco ethos and atmosphere and spirit so much alive here in Pallaskenry.
My name is Margaret Cahill. I'm a Salesian sister and I come from Tipperary. 2 years ago I celebrated my Golden Jubilee. During my time I worked in South Africa, Scotland, England, and now I work in Clondalkin. We're here in Knock Shrine in preparation for the presence of Don Bosco, the spiritual presence of the man who had such an influence on so many people. It means an awful lot to me that Don Bosco is coming, because it just gives me the opportunity to reflect and to see how Don Bosco has influenced my own life, the lives of so many young people, the lives of other people I've been in contact with and people who have been in contact with me, to really appreciate the spirit of Don Bosco, which is one of joy, simplicity, understanding, respect.
John Bosco had a dream that
it was really his love for Jesus and wanting to put that love into practice. The way Jesus dealt with young people, his love for the young, which came through in the Gospel so clearly, that was what Don Bosco really was taken by. I would hope that when the relic comes, it will be a renewal again of what Don Bosco meant in his time, and he still wants that message promoted today. Educating and caring for, educating in the full sense of the word, not just intellectually, but educating every aspect of the human person, and particularly the young, and the way that Jesus would have done, with great love. I always wanted to give my life really to God, if you like. And then when I read the life of St. John Bosco as a youngster, I was really taken by it. And I felt this is the way I would like to go, to live for young people as he did. But I'm retired from school now, but I'm still part of that scene. And I just feel it's just wonderful and brilliant to belong to a family that's so committed to caring for young people and caring with love.
It's a great privilege for Knock, for the people of Knock and the pilgrims who come to Knock, and for the Archdiocese of Tuam to have the relics of St. John Bosco here with us. The approach that he adopted, when he was ministering, that's the approach that's been encouraged today. It's been encouraged by psychologists, by educationalists, and in many ways I believe that we are endeavouring to catch up with St. John Bosco. For example, the element of joy that permeated his life and his ministry, that's something that we need very much in our culture and in our church today. St. John Bosco underlines the importance of joy and hope. He was a man of indomitable courage himself, and for that reason I believe that the coming of his relics here among us at Knock Shrine, that's a very powerful message for all of us who are concerned about passing on the gospel to the young, and about trying to ensure that in spite of all that tends to weigh us down in our world today, that we will never lose sight of that element of joy.
Welcome to you all this evening as we welcome to the Basilica of Our Lady of Knock, Queen of Ireland, the relics of St. John Bosco. John Bosco was a great educator of the young, founder of the Salesian Order, someone who really brought to the heart and core of children's lives the gospel message itself, and that is certainly a story that needs to be told.
We've arrived here in Knock, Marion Shrine of Our Lady. It's our 9th day of our pilgrimage tour. We just come from Limerick today, and we had a massive crowd of young people at our schools in Pallaskenry, Agricultural College of 300 students, and our secondary school with about 600 pupils. And it was a rousing welcome for Don Bosco's reliquary. As people approach the relic here in Knock, people are coming with their petitions, particularly to come and to pray for their young people, because, say, John Bosco was a great friend and teacher of the young. When we see such numbers turning out here, we think we're overwhelmed by the great devotion, the amount of people I've met who have prayed to Don Bosco for years and years, and are delighted now to come and to see the casket containing his right hand that reaches out to them and blesses them and heals them in all their great needs.
We're here in Sean McDermott Street. We live here as a small community. We're part of the bigger community. Downstairs we have Crinan Youth Project, set up about 20 years ago in response to a lot of drug-related problems that the area was experiencing. And so we got involved with other agencies in the area to start this youth project for young people who have difficulties with substance abuse, especially drugs. The manager now is Gemma Collins, but before her there was a Salesian called Joe Lucy, and Joe was a very inspirational figure to many people here in the area. Don Bosco coming here was a huge thing for us as a group of Salesians and of the wider Salesian family, but it's also a huge symbol of hope and blessedness for the area. Somebody is coming to bless them, you know, and it's Don Bosco who loved the young and gave his life for the young. That he's the one who is coming here, in a sense, to bless and affirm the people of this area, to, I suppose, to tell them how important they are, and for him. It's kind of the vision that we maybe don't talk about all the time, but it's there, that we would love things to be better. We live here because we believe that with the people and ourselves we can create something even better.
He was very much a man who worked with young people where they were at, and that, you know, when it wasn't popular at all for possibly adults at all, but certainly for clergy, to be running around kicking ball, playing with children in where they were living and what they were going through on a day-to-day basis. I suppose that's, for me, that would be one of the main things about Don Bosco that I suppose I carry around in my head.
He has a very interesting life. I'm a teacher. He's the patron of teachers. He has a method of teaching and working with youth, and he's just a great saint.
His work with young people and just being open to young people and meeting them where they're at, that would be very important, and I suppose we have kind of worked on that with our children, so that would be important.
During these days of Lent, we sometimes speak about the pilgrimage that we are on. We are on a pilgrimage of the heart during this season of Lent as we try to draw closer to God through acts of prayer, fasting and almsgiving. But this morning, exceptionally, we gather around one who has come as a pilgrim to us. Somebody who has come to us to share his vision of God, his love of God, and to tell us how the love of God was at work in his life. John Bosco is a saint. A saint is somebody who speaks to us of God's love at work in our heart.
occasionally in the church and in society and at a particular time, some people in some way allow the work of God to be like an extraordinary light shining through. And that certainly was the case of John Bosco. A peasant boy, a young fella that certainly was not born with a golden spoon. At a young age, at 2 years of age, he lost his father. His mother was left widowed to rear her own son Joseph and John Bosco, and also to rear her stepson Anthony, and to look after her grandmother in great poverty. But John Bosco's life tells us that in some way, if we open our hearts to God's love, that transforms us, and that allows God to do wonders through each and every one of us. And for John Bosco, I suppose very simply, God asked him to do one thing. And what God asked him was, would you allow my dream, God's dream, particularly for young people, would you make that dream for me a reality? By letting young people of all time, of all cultures and of all places, that I love them. And that very, very simple, small little seed that was planted in that city of Turin in the 19th century has over the years grown and developed, and its branches are spread out to every part of the world.
John Bosco boxing club.
So it's great to be here with so many people this evening to welcome the relics of St Don Bosco to our cathedral church. A church where Father Sean Cromwell, great Salesian, I think certainly not too far from our Father George White, and Father Sean McFerrin, Salesians who worked for some time in this diocese. John Bosco was one of the huge figures who left their mark on modern Europe in recent centuries. This man laboured to bring the gospel into the heart of industrial society, urban society, and into the hearts of those whose lives were being moulded in the furnace of industrialisation. He was a man of God who was a blessing to his own generation, but I think from whom we might learn many things as we seek to cope in our time with widespread change and uncertainty. Too many young people end up in mental hospitals, prisons, and an early grave. Too many are dying for want of a reason for living. That applied in the early 19th century, it still applies. It's so easy for adults to blame some young people for how they behave and say we must knock them into line and into decent behaviour. But adults rarely ask what's wrong with the world that we adults have created for them. So we pray that this night of prayer, associated with the presence of the relics among us, will be for us a time of blessing, and that will renew our commitment to look after our young, to prioritise the needs of the weakest, and to hand on to them a passion for the God who always has faith in us.
I knew there were many connections in this diocese in Belfast. With Don Bosco, so many vocations had come from here, and it's been interesting meeting a lot of those people, families, and they have very, very much appreciated the fact that the relics have come here. They almost sort of see it's Don Bosco, in a sense, almost nearly coming home or bringing things full circle by having the chance to have them come here to Belfast and for them to venerate the relics.
Lord God, in your providence, you gave us St. John Bosco as the father and teacher of the young who worked with tireless zeal under the guidance of the Virgin Mary for the good of the Church. Arise in each one of us that same apostolic charity which urges us to seek salvation for all our brothers and sisters, and to seek your grace and blessing through Christ our Lord. Amen.
If Don Bosco were to be asked whereabouts in Dublin he'd like his priests to establish themselves, he could well say Sean McDermott Street, because this is a place where the sort of mission that Don Bosco was particularly interested in helping young people to get out of a cycle of poverty, not through assistance but through training them, enabling them to be fully the people that they are. Don Bosco had this extraordinary vision, and in my earlier life when I travelled a lot around different parts of the world, in so many places, was in oratory or workshops or training colleges of Salesians, and one of the amazing things about them was the people who were there, the young boys particularly, were always very happy. There was always that tremendous atmosphere and that learning and character building, but also faith, education in the faith, all went together. Learning from the witness of the Salesian family, the broad Salesian family, so many young people have had that experience, and for that I think we're all grateful. The Gospel reminds us that unless we become like children, we won't enter into the kingdom. And the way we look on children shows us how we really understand the kingdom. Don Bosco showed that. I believe we've a huge amount to learn from Don Bosco's way of reaching out to young people, because he believed there were no second-class young people in the church or in life, and they all deserved to be able to get the best and to be able to realise the best that was in them.
Third class from Rutland Street School, and they're dramatising a dream that Don Bosco had. He had lots of dreams, but this dream he had when he was 9 years old. So they're just going to do it for us now, so you can watch and learn.
When Don Bosco was about 9 years old, he had a dream. He dreamed that he was in a large playing field where a crowd of children were having fun. Some of the children were cursing and being very mean to each other. Don Bosco ran into the middle of the group and shouted at them to stop. Stop being so unkind to each other!
This is the second day of the visit of the relics of Don Bosco to here. It's gone very well so far, and we've had crowds of people for the last 2 days, and very well attended, and graceful moments for so many people. Children came from cluster of parishes, 4 of them, and they came on pilgrimage here, and they had their own little reflection and workshops here prepared beforehand. And it's gone very, very well, and there's a great atmosphere, tremendous atmosphere, and people are very welcoming, and they have been welcomed here.
I'm very happy to be able to come down to see the relic of John Bosco at my age. Yeah.
Lovely.
Although I was baptised in this church, the Chapel of Ease, there was a Ting church before this church was built.
Yes.
So 94 years ago I was baptised, and now later.
94 years ago here you were baptised.
Don Bosco was a true dreamer. He had the courage to dream. This is important for us. He had the courage to dream and to think way ahead of his time. And he had the courage to dream what the pragmatists would simply lay aside as too difficult to realize and therefore not worth even starting. But his greatest dreams were not about himself, but about the young people with whom he worked. His dream was that these young people would realize their dreams. Don Bosco didn't look on his young people as clients or as numbers. He loved young people. He loved each of the young people entrusted to his care. And that gave him that unique sense of confidence in each young person. He looked on each young person with whom he came into contact as someone who was most precious in the eyes of God, as someone who could show us adults what faith in Jesus Christ was like, and fundamentally, what Jesus Christ himself was like. I'd like to express my personal thanks for the work that the Salesian Fathers have done and continue to do in this parish and in other works in the diocese, Salesian homes and the work of the sisters. In this year of faith and through the visit of the relics, I'd hope that the Salesian community will be renewed and that it might bring to our times that special contribution of fostering the faith among young people after the model of Don Bosco.
Bosco was a great navigator, and I suppose he's given us 2 pillars, the pillar of the Eucharist on one hand and the pillar of Our Lady. And as we navigate through our own journey in life, if we maintain our journey towards these 2 pillars and keep focused, our journey will then be fulfilled. And in ways in which John 10 verse 10 has us, I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And this was John Bosco, giving life, his friendship, his affirmation, and hopefully we can continue to manifest that in all our wonder and presence here at Our Lady of Lourdes here at Sean McDermott Street.
Today, as a Salesian family, we celebrate Don Bosco among us. The secret of a Salesian school lies in showing real kindness to one another in the art and in the classroom. Salesian kindness comes in 4 shapes. Respect. Respect for every person in the school, because each one of us is precious and eternal. Understanding, because we are all growing and sometimes get mixed up and make mistakes. Affection, because we all need to feel we belong, from the youngest first year to the oldest member of staff. Humour, because in the end it's all down to God, and heaven isn't so far away from any of us all the time.
We belong to a family, Salesians by name. Don Bosco is our leader, to each he is the same. A friend to the poor, the downcast, the weak, with a name everyone should think proudly of, as our family of love keeps growing, our family of love keeps sowing the seeds of a new life every day.
He's here to let us know that God worked powerfully through him, and that God can work powerfully through each one of us, because God loves us as much as he loved Don Bosco. And we know that during his lifetime, God worked powerfully through him. And our prayer today is that he will continue to work powerfully through him today in his visit here to the Holy Rosary, and that each one of us will get the graces and blessings that we need.
I got to know Don Bosco first from the Salesian Sisters down in Carricon, so I'm very proud to have two of the sisters today, and I'm very honoured to be here with Salesian School Fernbank and to welcome the presence of Don Bosco among us here to this parish. Today is a very, very special day. It's a very, very special day for this parish. It's a very, very special day for all of us who in some way have been inspired by this person called St. John Bosco. And I suppose particularly then today it is a day that certainly the Salesian Sisters, because today is really your day. I've had the privilege of, I suppose, being in different parts of the country as part of this nationwide pilgrimage of the relics of Don Bosco to Ireland. But today I'm very conscious that today is Fernbank's Day, it's the Sisters' Day here in Limerick, and all of you that have been associated with them from the very founding of the school in the 1920s. So I'm very conscious that we're part of a great heritage, and we're honouring that today. And the reason that we're all here, because this man, in some way, his story, his life, his dream, has in some way connected with our stories, our lives, and our dreams. And we're marking that today. And we're coming to draw inspiration for him as we continue to dream dreams and make those dreams a reality for our time and our day.
No problem. Thank you.
We belong to a family, Salesian